Part 8. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 71. Team Leader. What's wrong, Captain? Wang Ling suddenly attacked one of his own. Not to mention the mobilizer who was stunned, even the members of the Eagle squad were confused for a moment. And Wang Ling didn't have time to explain. The mobilizer seemed to realize that he had been exposed. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, gritted his teeth and glared at Wang Ling, then got up and ran away. Stop! Wang Ling shouted, then directly picked up the enhanced submachine gun and fired at him. Wang Ling is now at the level of a 5-star Special Forces soldier. He has been strengthened so many times in a row that his sight is one of the best in the entire base. All these bullets hit the mobilizer in the leg, killing him on the spot. He fell to the ground in embarrassment, and half of the blood bar above his head was gone. Now that the blocking battle was over, gunshots suddenly appeared again, which attracted the attention of half the base almost instantly, and all the surrounding soldiers rushed here quickly. When they saw that Wang Ling was shooting one of their own, some of them were confused, but some of them got angry and stood in front of the mobilized soldiers and scolded them. What are you doing? Stop! The battle has just ended, and you went into hiding and shot your comrades. Who are you? I've turned against you. What's more, he clenched his fists and walked directly towards Wang Ling. It seemed that he wanted to capture Wang Ling first before talking. However, Wang Ling was also angry now. He would not give in. He kicked one of them and punched the other one with his backhand. Then he walked towards the mobilized soldiers aggressively, fighting back as he walked. He shouted, "Get out of my way, do you know who he is?" The answer came from a sergeant standing in front of the mobilized soldiers, "I don't care who he is our comrade anyway. You openly raised a gun against your comrades at the base. Are you trying to rebel?" In the world of Red Alert, soldiers have very few positions, and their status is basically determined by military rank. Facing a commander who was 2 levels higher than him, Wang Ling was not polite at all. "Comrade? Hey, the kind with quotation marks? Which of our comrades would get out of the Allied multi-purpose infantry vehicle?" And he was so quick to do so. "Rush in the direction of the chariot factory." "Serious sergeant, don't you know the difference between right and wrong? This. Get out of the Allied infantry vehicle." Getting off the enemy's car, who could he be? When the people watching around heard this, they all lost their composure and began to discuss among themselves in whispers. The scene was very lively. As for the sergeant standing in front of the mobilized soldiers, being targeted by Wang Ling made him feel angry, and he was already standing in the way. He didn't want to admit defeat, so he looked back at the moaning he groaned mobilizing soldiers, gritted his teeth and turned around and asked, "How did you know? Did you see it with your own eyes?" Wang Ling did not show any weakness. "Oh, how did you become a confused sergeant? Shouldn't you torture the guy behind you now? Why are you talking so hard with me? He is a spy, and his target is the tank factory. Once he is captured, he stole experience. All the tanks produced by the Allies are 1-star veteran level. When the firepower becomes stronger, our situation will be even more difficult. Can you afford this kind of guilt? A corporal, no matter how big or small, do you think that after being promoted to corporal, you will be the best in the world? I think you just need to be dealt with." The sergeant was speechless for a moment, and then he stopped arguing about the spy, and instead said Wang Ling was dissatisfied with his attitude and looked like he was about to take action. Wang Ling was now determined to confront him and refused to back down at all. He immediately assumed a military marching stance. However, just as the sergeant was approaching him and the two sides were about to take action, Lieutenant Zhao Pingguang's voice suddenly came from outside the crowd, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You just wiped out the enemy, and you are fighting among yourself here. People heard the sound and hurriedly opened a passage, revealing King Xiaoping outside the crowd. Because of the enemy attack, King Xiaoping was not in a good mood. Now that something like this happened, his expression was even worse. Slowly walked into the center of the crowd, stared at the sergeant and Wang Ling for a while, and then asked, "What the hell are you two doing?" The sergeant hurriedly complained, "Sir, this corporal is really not big or small, and he speaks rudely. I just want to teach him a lesson." Wang Ling was not afraid of him either. "Sir, this guy doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. I caught a spy and he has to come up and stop me." "Why did you think he was a spy?" The sergeant also had a stubborn temper and was at loggerheads with Wang Ling. But Wang Ling didn't bother to talk to him anymore. "How about a bet? Let the police dog test it. If he is not a spy, I will let you deal with it. But if he is really a spy, you have to be prepared to be beaten. Get ready, I'm also very angry now." "Nonsense." The sergeant was dissatisfied, stared angrily, and wanted to continue to scold Wang Ling, but Lieutenant Xiaoping Wang suddenly interrupted, "That's right, let's bet. Someone, bring a police dog." "Sir, do you agree to such an unreasonable request?" the sergeant said anxiously. Before King Xiaoping could speak, Wang Ling sneered, "Why, you feel guilty and you don't dare anymore." "Humph, whoever dares is the grandson." Stimulated, the sergeant gritted his teeth and finally admitted it. There were also police dogs patrolling the base at night. Soon someone called the trainer, and the police dog wandered over with him. This police dog usually seems a little lazy and lacks energy when it is not doing anything, but as soon as it approached this place without walking into the crowd, it suddenly changed its expression, with fierce eyes, bared teeth, and a low growl in its throat. Roaring, looking furious. "The police dog is coming. The police dog is coming. Get out of the way and let it test it out." After hearing the sound, people also noticed it and quickly moved out of the way, revealing the disabled mobilizer. At this time, the police dog only heard a cry of "woof," then broke away from the trainer's rope, pounced directly on the mobilized soldier, opened its mouth and bit hard. The police dogs in this red alert are very lethal to non-infantry units. The mobilized soldier who was already disabled could not hold on for long before his throat was bitten off, and his screams were abrupt. Then, the blood bar above his head quickly disappeared. The gamble between both parties finally came to fruition. Really a spy? It's impossible for a police dog to admit a mistake. That guy is really a spy. Spy? Fortunately he was discovered early, otherwise it would have been a disaster. The surrounding personnel murmured after seeing this scene, and the sergeant's face instantly turned red. As for Wang Ling, he was rude after seeing the result. He turned around and punched the sergeant, who was 2 levels above him, flying 3 meters away. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 72. Wang Ling was really angry now. It was just a spy, but it attracted so many people, and there was such a stubborn sergeant to fight against him. The word stubborn is not always a derogatory word. As long as you do the right thing and wait until the clouds clear to see the sun rise, stubborn becomes persistence and becomes a complimentary word. But if it's the other way around, if you obviously don't have any confidence and are just holding on for the sake of face, this kind of stubbornness will become unreasonable. Obviously, Wang Ling encountered such an unreasonable and troublesome sergeant tonight. When Wang Ling defended himself, the sergeant was already doubtful, but because Wang Ling did not respect him, he made trouble out of face. To this extent. This punch, let alone a sergeant, Wang Ling dared to hit even if Colonel Lovsky was here. Anyway, this is just a game world. The worst case scenario is that if you have a falling out, you can just leave and not come in again. Those who are barefoot are not afraid of those who wear shoes. After the punch, Wang Ling was not too aggressive. He glared at the sergeant, nodded to King Xiaoping, and then led the Eagle Squad directly out of the crowd without looking back. Eagle Squadron Station. He left gracefully, but the remaining crowd was no longer calm. Who is he? He looks like a corporal based on his epaulets, but how come he dares to hit even a sergeant? He must be too courageous. That's true, but this punch is really a relief. Yeah, that's cool. They seem to be members of the Eagle Squad, and Sunda who has been following him. Eagle Squad? No way, they haven't been established for a long time. Why are they so confident? Can it be insufficient? Haven't you noticed that their Eagle Squad now has 8 elite soldiers, and they are also equipped with Rhino tanks and anti-aircraft crawlers? Although these soldiers spoke in suppressed voices, after all, there were too many people discussing, and the sergeant who was beaten could naturally hear them. In addition to the burning pain, his face was also a little hot. After falling to the ground and being stunned for a while, he got up and his face twitched. King Xiaoping waved his hand at the right time to disperse the crowd, otherwise the sergeant might not be able to get down the steps at all. After the crowd dispersed, the sergeant complained, "Sir, where did he come from? He is just a corporal. He is so presumptuous. Even I don't take him seriously. I am a sergeant." Zhao Pingwang was originally in a bad mood, but after watching such a play for free, he felt much better. He immediately sneered and said, "Is the rank of sergeant very high?" Wang Ling left the barracks in advance with the rank of private or above. He joined the battlefield and only came to us for a few days. During the mission, he repelled several waves of enemy attacks and was directly promoted to corporal. His potential is greater than you think, and he can catch up with your rank. It's just a matter of time. When the time comes, can you still argue with him because of face issues? The sergeant was speechless for a moment. And King Xiaoping continued, "Moreover, he was impulsive in tonight's matter, and you went too far. This is a spy. If he really steals the information, our situation will only become more passive." "Understood, sir." "Okay, let's stop this matter here. If you have any problems in the future, talk to us. Stop being so stubborn. Go back and rest." After the sergeant left, the spy's body had disappeared. At this time, Zhao Pingwan came to the side of the police dog, squatted down and rubbed its forehead. "Well done, little guy. The military dogs here are all very smart." Now this black-backed dog seemed to have heard Zhao Pingwang's praise, and turned around twice in a row. It seemed to be very happy. How could it still be as ferocious as when it bit the spy before? After the spy incident was over, Wang Ling and Team Eagle stopped paying attention to other things. They still left a few people on duty, and then the others got into the camp and continued to rest. Lying on the hard bed, Wang Ling felt anxious in his heart. In the game, spies can be killed directly after identifying them, and there will be nothing unnecessary at all. But in this red alert world, why is it so troublesome? This question lingered in Wang Ling's mind, and he was upset, as if he had reached a dead end in his mind. After a while, Wang Ling suddenly woke up. Yes, in the game, he, the player, represents the commander of the entire base. Ordering the killing of a spy is completely irrelevant. No one can resist. But here, Wang Ling is just a corporal. At best, he is the captain of the Eagle Squad. He has no status in the entire base. There are always restrictions on what he has to do. After figuring this problem out, Wang Ling felt a lot more relaxed, but he couldn't help but sigh. Strength and status are not enough after all. We have just reached the rank of corporal, and there is still a long way to go. After sighing, Wang Ling stopped thinking and closed his eyes and quickly fell asleep. He slept peacefully, but as the commander of the base, Colonel Lovsky was still working hard. After Zhao Pingwang handled the spy matter and returned to the command post, he asked, "What have you been doing for so long?" King Xiaoping smiled bitterly and replied, "Sir, a spy just sneaked into the base and was discovered by Wang Ling. As a result." Next, Xiaoping Wang spent some time telling the story to Colonel Lovsky alone. After listening, Colonel Lovsky was a little surprised. This Wang Ling, how did he recognize that he was a spy? "I heard that I saw spies getting off the Allied multifunctional infantry vehicle. After entering the base, they walked towards the tank factory. They were a little sneaky." Xiaoping Wang spread his hands and answered. Colonel Lovsky nodded and said, "Yes, fortunately he was discovered, otherwise the consequences would be really serious. Okay, let's not talk about the spies for now. Have you noticed that the Eagle team is stationed tonight? At the northern exit, a special tank that shoots light attacks appeared." "I noticed it, sir," Xiaoping Wang replied. "The distance is very far, and the laser attack power is also very strong. If you encounter it without preparedness, you will easily suffer a big loss. Fortunately, the Eagle team is there." Wang Ling, this guy didn't know where he got the enemy information, so he sent a Rhino tank alone to destroy it. Colonel Lovsky pondered for a while before saying, "Its appearance tonight is not a good signal. The Allied forces seem to be getting stronger and stronger. But on the other hand, we will face a fierce attack every 3 to 5. It's really too slow, and if things continue like this, the situation will be very unfavorable to us. Sir, they can attack us, so why can't we counterattack? With our current strength, how can we counterattack? If the counterattack fails, how about harassment?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 73. Harassment. This is a good idea. The Allies intercepted our mine carts before and attacked them. We can also attack them back. But, who should be sent? Sir, if you want to choose a candidate, I would like to recommend one. Do you want to say Eagle Squad? Colonel Lovsky glanced at Xiaoping Wang and immediately guessed what he meant. Xiaoping Wang smiled and said, "Yes, this task is most suitable for the Eagle Squad. I checked, and after destroying the laser-emitting tank, the Rhino tank of the Eagle Squad has reached the 3-star elite soldier level. Samsung, sir, you know how powerful the Samsung Rhino tanks are, and there is no problem in destroying the Allied mining vehicles. Moreover, with Wang Ling's shrewdness in dealing with the enemy, he will definitely lose all his money when performing these tasks." The youngest in the team. Colonel Lovsky was silent for a while, and then the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. "Yes, it's exactly what I thought. It's just that the Eagle team has been hard enough. They just returned from the mission during the day, and now they have such a troublesome mission again." "You can't say that, sir. Those who can do more work, and this is a battlefield. It's normal to have too many tasks, right?" Wang Ling didn't understand the conversation between the two of them at all, and he had already fallen asleep in a daze. The Allies also need to save a little bit of funds to recruit troops and produce tanks and fighter jets. They will not attack too frequently. After tonight's night attack, the battlefield has become quiet, with only the guards and engineers busy. In the blink of an eye, the sky gradually became brighter, and a brand new day ushered in on the battlefield. Similar to when they were in the barracks, there was no way to sleep in the base. Wang Ling was woken up by the sound of the bugle early in the morning. All the members took the time to put on their clothes, armor, and weapons. After gathering outside, they started running in the morning. However, the morning run here does not last long, only 1 kilometer in total. It is mainly a routine exercise. Don't let the bodies of the soldiers who are not on duty get rusty, and the extra energy will be used for fighting. After the morning run, the base soldiers ate in batches and then began daily patrols in accordance with the arranged order. The remaining personnel were on standby while recuperating. For Wang Ling, when there is no war, life in the base is much easier than in the barracks. Although he was somewhat uncomfortable with it, Wang Ling did not miss this opportunity to be lazy and accumulated survival points while recuperating. On this day, the coalition base on this battlefield was quite lively. After lunch, the reinforcements that the base had been waiting for finally arrived. Although the base is not in urgent need of funds because the Eagle team has successfully protected the mine, no one would mind having too much money. This time the reinforcements included 3 fully loaded armed mining trucks and 4 more. A Rhino tank, 3 anti-aircraft tracked vehicles, and about 60 other unranked conscripts. In the world of Red Alert, although many people, objects, and settings are gamified, places like the barracks are an exception. In the game, as long as you have funds, you can continuously purchase new soldiers and walk out of a small barracks building. But in the world of Red Alert, recruits don't just come randomly. They need to be recruited and trained for a long time before they can join the battlefield. Therefore, places like barracks are much larger and more important than in the game. They will not be built in the base on the front battlefield at all. They are all built in different places at the rear of the battle line. After the recruits have been trained for a certain period of time, passed the assessment, and passed the examination, they will be assigned to different battlefields and different bases. For example, these 60 or so mobilization soldiers were assigned directly after receiving a request for help from the base not long after they walked out of the barracks. After hearing the news, Wang Ling hurried over and checked on the newcomers. However, in the end, he was disappointed. All the people in this group were strangers, and Wang Ling didn't recognize any of them. Perhaps, the first company of his barracks is still in training. It is strange to say that during the barracks, Wang Ling's 5th company and the 1st company had many conflicts. However, after entering the battlefield and looking at all the new faces around him, Wang Ling missed them a little. Before all the accumulated grievances and grudges were left behind. Since there was no acquaintance, Wang Ling stopped watching and returned to the Eagle team's station. Compared with other teams in the base, Eagle Squad can make him feel more at ease here. After all, they have been together for a few days, performed missions together, and experienced life and death together. Compared to Wang Ling's simple thoughts, Colonel Lovsky and the others were a little uneasy because a lieutenant colonel from another base actually got out of one of the tracked vehicles, bringing with him a large amount of important information. The progress on this battlefield is relatively slow, and because it is carrying 2 Allied power bases alone, the coalition is in a weak position as a whole. But some other battlefields have already entered a fever pitch, and various high-tech tanks and units have also appeared one after another. And these are also recorded in these materials. In addition to the types of troops that have already appeared, such as tank killers, snipers, and light tanks, there are also some names that are relatively unfamiliar to the base. For example, paratroopers who can land anywhere on the battlefield, giant cannons that can fire extremely powerful artillery shells at ultra-long distances, Black Hawk fighter jets with higher armor and more power, etc., made Colonel Lovsky feel frightened. Of course, the data also contains detailed data on our own technology, such as the Apocalypse tank. With this data, after the base combat laboratory is completed, the base will soon be able to build such a powerful tank independently. This can be regarded as giving Colonel Lovsky some comfort. After the information was delivered, the lieutenant colonel did not stay too long and quickly left here in an anti-aircraft crawler vehicle. But Colonel Lovsky became distressed, fearing that these special enemy forces would appear on this battlefield in large numbers. After a brief discussion with Deputy Zhao Pingwang, they decided to start their harassment plan in advance. That afternoon, while Wang Ling was still recuperating, Zhao Pingwang suddenly found him and told him his ideas and mission objectives. He also added more soldiers to the Eagle squadron. The infantry unit had a total of 40 people, and there were also a Rhino tank and an anti-aircraft tracked vehicle. Wang Ling, who was currently bored, accepted the task without any hesitation. Not long after King Xiaoping left, the Eagle squad began to assemble. After briefly familiarizing themselves with the new recruits, assigning new numbers, and briefly explaining the mission objectives, the Eagle squad finally began a new round of missions. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 74. The mission of the Eagle team this time is very simple. It is just a sneak attack on the Allied overtime mining vehicle. This kind of mining vehicle itself has no combat effectiveness at all except for its vehicle advantages, so it should be completed well. But in fact, this task is very difficult. The minecart has no attack power, but the Allies do. Maybe the Allies won't think much of a sneak attack once or twice, but as time goes by, armed forces will be sent to attack them sooner or later. By then, the situation faced by the Eagle team will be very dangerous. Moreover, for this mission, Xiaoping Wang did not specify how long the fight would last or how many vehicles would be destroyed. He only said that he would harass as much as possible and interrupt the Allied forces' funding supply. There is no specific standard for this kind of requirement. No matter how many Allied mining vehicles are destroyed or for how long, it is difficult to determine whether the mission has been completed. However, Wang Ling didn't care anymore. His goal was not to focus on completing the mission, but to attack the Allies as much as possible, accumulate more points, and also improve the overall strength of the Eagle squad. With this idea in mind, the Eagle team finally drove out of the base in a mighty manner. This battlefield is very large, so naturally you can't just mess around. During the march, Wang Ling was also checking the electronic map in his mind. There are a lot of mines on the map, and now, many of the mines near the Allies have been mined out. Those mine carts have naturally turned to other mines farther away, and they are distributed over a wide range and in number. A lot of. It seems that Team Eagle is very busy. After careful inspection, the nearest Allied minecart to the Eagle squadron had almost entered the coalition's sphere of influence. It was only 3 hours infantry journey away from the Eagle squadron. Okay, let's use it as a tooth sacrifice, Wang Ling smiled when he saw this minecart, and then immediately set the coordinate point for the Eagle team, changed direction, and ran forward as a group. The Rhino tanks moved very fast and the anti-aircraft crawlers were even faster, but Wang Ling deliberately limited their speed and did not let them run too fast, always following the Eagle squadron. The 3-hour journey is quite long, but it is only the time of normal walking. The Eagle team greatly shortened the arrival time by running as a group. It only took less than an hour to reach the target mine field. Half of this mine has been mined, and the time travel mining vehicle is still frantically mining the other half of the minerals, not caring whether there are enemy troops coming. After Wang Ling stopped and saw the minecart, he immediately became happy. This is really ugly, it's money but not your life. Brothers, blow it up for me. With an order, all members of the Eagle team opened fire. 40 Babisha submachine guns fired wildly, all focusing their fire on the mining truck. For a while, the sound of click-click gunfire was heard. I have to say that the armor of this minecart is really hard. More than 40 people shot at it, including nearly 10 elite soldiers. The firepower is no joke, but the health of this minecart has been reduced. It was very slow. It would probably take them a while to destroy it just by relying on them. During this process, the minecart was still collecting minerals stubbornly, as if it looked down on Wang Ling and the others. However, there were not only infantry in the Eagle squad, but the 2 Rhino tanks also fired their guns. Among them, the 3-star Rhino tank has the strongest firepower. It fires 2 shells at a time, each one causing explosive damage. After several rounds in succession, combined with the intensive firepower of 40 infantry, The minecart quickly lost its health and the health bar seeing red, the car body was smoking, and I guess one or two more shots would have blown it up. But at this moment, whoosh! The minecart actually disappeared, and there were still traces of time and space movement in the air. At first sight, everyone including Wang Ling was stunned when they saw this scene. It took some time for Wang Ling to regain his composure. In the game, the overtime mining vehicle controlled by a computer program really has this characteristic. It is not afraid of death when mining. Even if the minerals are in the enemy's base, they still have to go in and mine them. Naturally, they will be beaten up. However, his blood level turned red, and when he was about to be blown up, his desire for survival came back. He moved directly through time and space to the Allied ore refinery. After putting down the minerals, he did not repair them, but went straight to mine the minerals again. Now, Wang Ling saw this characteristic with his own eyes. It was exactly the same as the urine property in the game. Thinking of this, Wang Ling couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. He ran pretty fast. Sun Dehu complained from the side, "This time travel mining vehicle is really difficult to catch. Captain, where should we go next?" Wang Ling scratched his chin while checking the electronic map, wanting to see where the nearest hyperdimensional mining vehicle to them was. After checking for a period of time, Wang Ling confirmed the target, but when he was about to give the order, he was suddenly stunned for a moment. The time travel mining vehicle that was almost blown up by them drove out of the Allied base again, and look at that momentum, it seems that the target is still this mine. Good guy, remember to eat and not to fight. We are not going anywhere now, we are just waiting here, Wang Lingling said happily. Although the others were puzzled, no one asked any more questions. They simply stayed nearby and rested while on guard. When the chrono mining vehicle returns, it can directly use chrono movement and return instantly. However, when going to the mine, it still needs to drive and move forward bit by bit. The movement speed of vehicles with smoking red blood will be affected. As a result, Wang Ling and the others waited here for a long time before the minecart entered their range again. Hey, that stupid guy is back again. It's coming with red blood. It's still smoking. Isn't this looking for death? The Eagle squad was not in a hurry to open fire, but instead watched the excitement. Wang Ling glared at them and then quickly ordered, "Don't be stunned, blow it up first." When the others heard this, they corrected their attitude, but just as they were about to open fire, the Samsung Rhino tank took the lead and rushed forward, blowing up the chrono minecart with 3 and 2 shots. Seeing the tire that flew up and fell, and was still rolling, Wang Ling was stunned for a while, and then he became helpless. "Hey, Rhino number 1, are you trying to grab experience? You already have 3 stars, why are you trying to grab it? You can't leave the minecart with residual health to other comrades, isn't it good to have multiple 3-star elite soldiers?" Being scolded by such a cheap captain, the Rhino tank shook its barrel slightly, seeming very aggrieved. This means that its tank units cannot speak, otherwise I don't know how to complain. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 75. Not to mention the Rhino tank, even the other infantrymen of the Eagle squad were dumbfounded. This captain is so interesting. In fact, it's no wonder Wang Ling is so fussy. Wang Ling has some obsessive-compulsive disorder in this regard. When playing games, Wang Ling always likes to make all tanks or soldiers reach the 3-star elite level as much as possible. However, in the game, Wang Ling does this not for firepower, but for good looks. But in the world of Red Alert, Wang Ling also realized the difference between 3-star and no level. The difference in firepower was more than 1.5 stars, so naturally the more the merrier. After blowing up an Allied minecart, the Eagle squad had rested for a long time on the way. Now they didn't feel very tired, so they struck while the iron was hot. After Wang Ling marked the coordinates, they started to move towards the next mine. The minerals in this mine have almost been mined, and there are only some minerals thrown out by the central mining machine. But even so, when Wang Ling and the others arrived here, there were still two superdimensional mining vehicles competing for mining, looking like money fans. Wang Ling and the others were not polite. After giving the order, they opened fire on one of the vehicles. The current Eagle team's firepower is not as fierce as usual. Under the concentrated fire, the minecart was already exhausted in a short time. Just like last time, the time travel minecart with residual health did not give them a chance to explode, and they returned to the base with one time travel movement. Although Team Eagle was unconvinced, they couldn't care less about complaining now, and immediately began to focus their fire on another minecar that had picked up leaks. However, there is a saying that goes well, the world is as dark as crows, and this minecart is just like the others. Just after the remaining health was a time travel movement, it returned to the base. Two minecarts were run away by them one after another. Now, the Eagle squad was really furious. Why are these grandsons running so fast? What bad luck? What are those brats from the Allied forces thinking? Why can the time travel technology be used by the minecarts? That's right, even a minecart is not enough to hold you back. It's really my fault. Wang Ling was a little angry at first, but after hearing the complaints from his subordinates, he couldn't help but laugh. Looking back at the traces left by the minecart when it moved across time and space, Wang Ling couldn't help but daydream about it. He also wanted this kind of technology and this way of movement. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. Wang Ling simply asked in his head, "Uncle Hey, this time travel movement is too cool. I also want this technology, what should I do?" Uncle Hey is always paying attention to the red alert world. When he heard the question, he immediately answered, "The super time and space technology is exclusive to the Allied forces. You are now affiliated with the Allied forces, so naturally you don't have it. However, if you really want it, it's not impossible." "What about?" Wang Ling became a little excited when he heard this. Uncle Hey replied, "Be a traitor, betray the Allied forces, and join the Allied forces." "Bah," Wang Ling couldn't help but scolded, "Uncle Hey, can you please stop being so dishonest? Be a traitor and open fire on your comrades. I can't do this, not even in a game. What else is there besides this? Is there any other way?" Uncle Hey smiled and replied, "There is a way. Just like the game setting, if you want to have the common technology of the Allies, wouldn't you just occupy the Allied command post? Then there will be a command post with the data, you can build those functional buildings and Allied troops, and you can also train and build them yourself." This method is so difficult, Wang Ling frowned. If he wanted to blow up the Allied command post, Wang Ling was still somewhat confident, but if he wanted to capture it, the difficulty would be extraordinary. In the game, if you want to occupy the main building of a place, you must use an engineer to enter it before it is considered occupied. Moreover, after occupation, they are usually dismantled immediately and sold for money. After all, the enemy's buildings are all in the enemy's base. As long as they fail to annihilate the enemy's armed forces and occupy their buildings, they will naturally become a living target that cannot move. Of course, that's just a game. Wang Ling still doesn't know how to occupy the red alert world. "Okay, I've also told you the method. Whether you can do it or not depends on your plan." After Uncle Hey left these last words, he lost his voice. Wang Ling was silent for a while and couldn't help but glance at the members of the Eagle team again. 40 infantrymen, including nearly 10 3-star elites, as well as 3-star elite rhinoceros tanks, anti-aircraft crawlers, and a pair of unranked ones. The firepower of the members of the Eagle squad is already very fierce, but Wang Ling is still no one is naive enough to think that these troops can attack the next Allied base. While thinking, Wang Ling would scan the electronic map from time to time. Just as he was thinking of this, another time travel mining vehicle with a damaged blood appeared on the map, and it drove towards them in their direction. Let's not think too much about the base. Complete the current mission and improve your points. Wang Ling shook his head, suppressed those itchy feelings, ordered the Eagle team to be on alert, and then hid aside and continued observe the electronic map. This time, the only one who died wherever he fell was this one. Under Wang Ling's observation, the other one seemed to have temporarily discovered a more suitable mine, from another allied base. The location opened up. But Wang Ling is not discouraged, there is a car for him. After waiting for a long time, and it was already getting late, the time-traveled minecart with residual health arrived here leisurely. This time, Wang Ling specifically suppressed those 3-star soldiers, and even stopped the Rhino tanks and tracked vehicles, allowing only the new recruits to attack, and whoever got the experience would get it. It has to be said that the shell of a mining cart is really hard. More than 30 unranked conscripts surrounded the remaining health minecart and fought for a while before completely blowing it up. During this process, the allied minecart tried to run over it several times, but because Wang Ling had given the order in advance, all the mobilization soldiers on its path avoided it in advance. It failed to let it succeed, and was blown up. After that, the Eagle squad was successfully promoted to a 3-star elite soldier. All the comrades around him gathered around him and congratulated him, but Wang Ling just smiled and didn't pay much attention. There will be many more such things in the future. Looking at the sky, it was already getting late. Wang Ling didn't want to carry out such a long-lasting mission overnight, so he simply arranged 2 shifts of mobilization troops and glanced at the electronic map to confirm that there was no danger at present. Then he lay down behind the bunker he found randomly and closed his eyes. In his mind, he contacted Uncle Hay and left the world of Red Alert. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 76. This time in the Red Alert world, you have accumulated a total of 18 survival points and slept for less than 8 hours. Please rest more in reality. In addition, you and the Eagle team also destroyed 3 Grizzly tanks and 1 Light Prism tank, 2 Chrono mining vehicles, a total of 120 points, killed 12 soldiers, a total of 120 points, shoot down 2 invader fighter jets, a total of 60 points. Plus the remaining points you had before. Yes, now you have a total of 1118 points left, so the harvest is pretty good. In the transfer station of the different dimensional system, after Uncle Hay saw Wang Ling, he smiled and counted Wang Ling's points in the red crystal world in detail. Wang Ling did not listen carefully to those processes, but only noticed the final points. More than 1,000 points might have felt huge when Wang Ling first came into contact with the different dimensional system, but now, Wang Ling doesn't think this point is any exaggeration. After all, to unlock the mid-level exchange, it is only 1/10, and there is still a long way to go. As usual, Wang Ling directly converted the 18 cents into cash, and then returned to reality. This time in the Red Alert world, Wang Ling was indeed a little tired. He lay on the bed in the dormitory and quickly fell asleep. Over the past few days, Wang Ling's biological clock has gradually become fixed. In the early morning of the next day, he opened his eyes at dawn, stayed in bed for a while, then washed up, and went to the playground to practice as a habit. Although the basic physical fitness enhancer has been of great help to Wang Ling, the shortcoming of sudden weakness has also been criticized by Wang Ling for too long. These days, his daily morning runs are aimed at this shortcoming. After nearly an hour of running, Wang Ling finally exhausted all his strength and lay on the ground in a miserable state, panting for air and not wanting to move. In the school, freshmen generally like to stay in bed after no morning jogging, and it is no longer an exception to wake up until noon. Therefore, No one knows about Wang Ling's exercise these days. But today, someone happened to come, and it was Zheng Long, whom Wang Ling disliked. This guy seemed to have just returned from a night at an off-campus internet cafe. He looked drowsy and was holding a glass of soy milk in his hand. It happened that he was passing near the playground on his way back to the dormitory. He took a casual glance and naturally saw Wang Ling's embarrassed appearance. He immediately became energetic. "Hey, Wang Ling, why? I'm still not convinced by the results of the physical fitness test woolen cloth." Wang Lincoln raised his head, glanced at Zheng Long, then lay down again, not wanting to pay attention to him at all. But Zheng Long did not miss this opportunity to ridicule. "I'm not telling you, as far as your physical fitness is concerned, other girls are much better than you. Look at you, are you weak? With your appearance, I guess you won't be able to pass the makeup exam in your sophomore year." Snort. The clay figurine was still very angry, not to mention Wang Ling now. After being talked about by Zheng Long for so long, Wang Ling became angry. He resisted his exhaustion and sat up cross-legged, staring at Zheng Long with a cold gaze. "Have you said enough? People who have been on the battlefield for a long time always have an invisible aura about them." Although Wang Ling entered the battlefield not long ago, he had already begun to feel this way after fighting in these battles. His cold eyes stared into Zheng Long's heart. "It's a sudden." However, after all, Wang Ling has been stereotyped as a fool. Zheng Long only thought it was an illusion. He sneered and walked away while waving his hands and said, "Brother, don't waste your efforts. Listen to my advice and bribe the physical education teacher to compete. Everything works, otherwise I would still have to watch you having fun. How tiring it would be." After saying that, the guy even laughed exaggeratedly twice, and soon disappeared. "This stick." Wang Ling looked at the direction in which he disappeared, dumbfounded. This means that Wang Ling's physical condition is not good, otherwise Zheng Long would probably be in bad luck if he were in his usual state. However, in reality, Wang Ling was too lazy to think too much about these things. After resting for a while and gaining some strength, he stood up, ate something and returned to the dormitory. In real life, the same schedule seems to be repeated every day. Most of the time, I stay in the dormitory playing games, attend classes or skip classes, and occasionally go out for dinner, day after day. Some people enjoy this kind of decadence, but Wang Ling is the only one in his dormitory, so he naturally gets bored after a long time. The day passed quickly in boredom. That night, after Wang Ling's physical strength completely recovered, he couldn't wait to contact Uncle He and entered the world of Red Alert again. When he left Red Alert World yesterday, Wang Ling had already arranged for shift workers. Now that he came in, he was just sleeping against a stone. Wang Ling had spent the night in the wild several times, and now he was more or less used to it. After tossing and turning for a while, Wang Ling fell asleep smoothly. When I woke up again, it was already late at night. I was woken up by Sun Dehuo. They were working double shifts and it was the turn of the team he led. Wang Ling was not lazy either. He yawned and stretched before standing up. He replaced the staff and started to be on guard. This place is quite far away from the Allied base, and presumably no Allied troops will come. However, the development of things always deviates from expectations. Wang Ling was bored when he was on duty. He casually glanced at the electronic map and found that a blue photoelectric was approaching them. Taking a closer look, it turned out to be the time travel mining vehicle that they had beaten to a pulp. This kind of mining vehicle can restore its health on its own, but at a slow speed. After this period of recovery, the health bar on its head has recovered by about half. However, there is a saying that is good: the scar is healed and the pain is forgotten. The scar was beaten to residual blood yesterday, and today it will return to the same old place. Wang Ling was happy when he saw it, but he didn't want to wake up Sun Dehu and the others who had already taken turns guarding, So he simply summoned all the mobilization soldiers on duty, along with the ungraded Rhino tanks, and left the mine on his own initiative. Field, and started to intercept the mining truck halfway. The number of personnel was reduced by half, and there were no Samsung Rhino tanks to help. Naturally, the firepower of the remaining people was somewhat insufficient. But the minecart had no offensive power at all. Being dumped by them, they seemed to panic on the spot. The front of the car spun around, and for a while, they didn't know which way to break out. They even forgot about the remaining health. After trying to move through time and space, he was beaten to death by Wang Ling and his group. Another conscript was successfully promoted to a third-level elite soldier. Rubbing his nose, Wang Ling couldn't help but sneered, "Is this minecart going to be beaten silly?" Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 77. It's probably not that the minecart was stupid, it's that we appeared too suddenly. Yeah, we haven't even arrived at the mine yet, and a group of us suddenly showed up, so we were probably confused. Whatever, just blow it up anyway. Haha, yes. They had just annihilated a time travel minecart, and now the people of Eagle Team were in a good mood. Wang Ling's words actually triggered a series of responses from them, which made Wang Ling feel a little funny. After they laughed for a while, Wang Ling interrupted and said, "Okay, don't be so proud, go back to the mine and continue to guard." The others responded quickly, and then quickly followed Wang Ling's footsteps and returned to the mine. When Wang Ling and the others left, they didn't want to wake up the people in the previous shift, so there was very little movement. After returning to the mine, these people continued to rest. Looking at these sleeping comrades, Wang Ling always felt at ease, smiled and returned to his post. In this mission, the Eagle Team's goal was not to protect the mine, so they didn't sleep until dawn. About 2 hours before dawn, the other members had woken up and had some breakfast. Wang Ling searched for the next mine and moved forward in the dark. When it comes to attacking the Allied base, Wang Ling has no confidence at all now, but Wang Ling is quite happy to attack those minecarts that have no ability to resist. When the Eagle Team arrived at the minecart, there were 3 space-time mining carts collecting here. Just like yesterday, after giving the order, the Eagle squad immediately focused their fire on a minecart. After a while, the minecart's health bar turned red, and in a swish it was a time travel movement and they returned to the base. The Eagle squad was used to seeing this scene, so they didn't find it strange at all. They immediately turned to attack the other car, but it also ran away after losing health. Then came the third one. According to their previous inertial thinking, Wang Ling and the others had no hope of successfully destroying it. After the remaining health, they thought it would have to move back to the base through time and space. What I didn't expect was that after the minecart had lost its health, not only did it fail to return smoothly, it actually spun around in circles. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Wang Ling and the others hurriedly stepped up their shooting, and finally successfully destroyed it before it could move across time and space. Another conscript was successfully promoted to 3 stars. Hey, why doesn't it run away? Hey, did you move too slowly and didn't have enough time? It shouldn't be. Look at those before, how fast they ran. Then what's going on with this one? For this reason, some people in the Eagle squad are wondering, and some are even gloating. Wang Ling was also a little strange. He picked his chin and thought for a while before he figured it out. This is probably because the ore refinery in the Allied base has mine trucks transporting it, so it has occupied a position. You must know that this Allied mining truck can only move in one direction towards the refinery. If there is no position, it can only move after the previous one leaves. This is good. When I am in a hurry, there is no place to let it pass. No wonder he spun around before being blown up. His emotions were so urgent. Thinking of this, Wang Ling couldn't help but gloated. Afterwards, Wang Ling continued to look at the electronic map, trying to find out whether the two mine carts from before would come here again. However, when I looked at it, instead of finding the two mine carts, I saw two blue light spots emerging from the two allied bases, quickly moving towards them. When I looked closer, I saw that it was an invasion fighter. Damn, how did you provoke them? Wang Ling was a little anxious, gritted his teeth, and quickly deployed. Attention all Rhino tanks and tracked vehicles, there are allied fighter planes approaching, most of them are coming towards you. Be careful to dodge and don't be killed by the fighters' shells. The Rhino tanks and anti-aircraft tracked vehicles shook their barrels one after another, as if to indicate their order. The speed of the Allied fighter planes was extremely fast, and the Eagle squadron was already some distance away from the base. As a result, the first pair of intruder fighter planes were quickly ushered in. Just as Wang Ling had guessed, the targets of these fighter planes were indeed tanks, and their appetites were not small. They set their sights on the Samsung Rhino tank from the very beginning, and dropped two missiles on it. However, this time they really set the wrong target. While the missiles were flying, the three-star Rhino tank moved forward like a god and moved a few meters. As a result, it happened to avoid the two missiles without any damage to itself. After failing to hit the target, the invader fighter jet circled in the sky, seemingly unwilling to do so, but in the end it wanted to return due to insufficient missiles. But at this time, Wang Ling was not happy anymore. Knock down the anti-aircraft tracked vehicles for me. You want to leave after throwing missiles? No way. The two tracked vehicles immediately carried out the order, quickly drove forward a certain distance, and fired at the two invader fighter jets in the air. If it were two unleveled tracked vehicles, there was really nothing you could do to deal with these two fighters. The most you could do was to knock out a small amount of their HP, but who let there be a Samsung in it? The firepower was not ordinary. A burst of anti-aircraft shells were fired one after another, and finally all the fighters were shot down when they were about to leave their range. However, it's not over yet. This time, two Allied bases were dispatched together. Just as the front foot shot down two fighter jets, two more came from behind. This time, the two fighter planes were a bit smarter. They targeted the ungraded Rhino tank and launched two missiles without hesitation. In the game, three-star tanks can avoid danger on their own. When there is no mission, it is naturally difficult for fighter planes to hit them with their shells. However, tanks without levels are much inferior and move slower. As a result, they were successfully hit by these two missiles. At this moment, Wang Ling was so anxious that he almost jumped up. This was his tank and an important pillar of the Eagle team. He couldn't bear to be blown up. However, after a moment of smoke passed, Wang Ling raised his eyebrows. Because the Rhino tank was not directly blown up, but was beaten to residual health. It seemed that it would explode if there was even the slightest impact. However, the two invader fighter planes were really at their wits' end, and the number of missiles was severely limited. They could only circle around for a week and then start returning towards the base. At this time, the two tracked vehicles that rushed back were not happy. They rushed up and started firing, and soon shot down a fighter plane. As for the other one, it only hit half of its health before it flew out of range. However, the two anti-aircraft crawler vehicles were unwilling to give in and tried to catch up at full power. Wang Ling saw this and quickly stopped them. Come back, don't chase them. The speed of an anti-aircraft crawler vehicle is very fast, but no matter how fast it is, can it be as fast as a fighter jet? If you keep chasing like this, sooner or later you will rush into the Allied base, and then you will really be looking for death. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 78. After listening to the order, the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle could only temporarily turn off the engine and return to the Eagle squadron. The air raid is over for the time being. It will probably take some time for the Allies to recreate invader fighter planes. During this time, there will probably be no more fighter planes. Thinking of this, Wang Ling breathed a sigh of relief, and then his eyes focused on the rhinoceros tank with residual health. Although this rhino tank survived the air attack, the damage was really serious, and the tank body was smoking. It is estimated that a few conscripts on the scene could blow it up with just a few shots. Seeing its miserable appearance, Wang Ling felt a little distressed. We can't just let it go, Sun Dehua. Take a few brothers to escort it back to the base for repairs, and then come back after the repairs are completed. Yes. After Sun Dehua received the order, he immediately assigned 4 novice mobilization soldiers, took the rhino tanks and embarked on the return journey. In the game, Wang Ling really didn't care much about a rhino tank with a lot of HP. After all, it would be really troublesome to control it after it was numbered and then sent back alone. But it's different now. Wang Ling is still the captain of the Eagle Squadron. He has a limited number of soldiers, and there are only 2 rhino tanks. He can't bear to throw away one. After Sun Dehua and the others were no longer visible, Wang Ling turned his attention to the electronic map. It seems that because the invader fighter planes failed to blow up the rhino tank successfully, the Allies were not very satisfied. 4 more Grizzly tanks and a multi-purpose infantry vehicle were driven out from one of the bases in a menacing manner. He rushed in their direction. After blowing up so many of their time-travel mining vehicles in a row, the Allies finally couldn't sit still and began to send armed forces to annihilate them. However, Wang Ling did not pay attention to these troops at all. After observing, he did not panic at all. He made a temporary deployment and intercepted all the tanks with infantry. Samsung Rhino tanks made a sneak attack on the side. As a result, several soldiers were injured. At a cost, these enemy troops were completely wiped out. It seems that the experience was robbed by the Rhino tank. After destroying 5 tanks, the Eagle team only gained 2 more 3-star elite soldiers. However, Wang Ling was also very satisfied. After taking a short rest, he soon found another mine and continued to attack the Allied mining trucks. In the command post of the coalition base, Colonel Lovsky saw what the Eagle squad was doing from the electronic video and couldn't help but laugh. Well done. The Allies put the Eagle squad on the stand, but they have a headache. Got it? Second Lieutenant Zhao Mingwang said with a smile on the side. Yes, Wang Ling is so clever and clever. It is absolutely right to send their Eagle squad to carry out this harassment mission. Colonel Lovsky nodded. Yes, with their harassment like this, the sources of funds for the Allies will definitely be greatly disrupted, and the pressure on us here will also be relieved. Just like what Colonel Lovsky said, the Allies were in bad luck to have a rival like Wang Ling come to harass them. In the next few days, the Eagle squad never returned to the base. They kept wandering around the major mines on the battlefield, beating up Allied mine carts when they caught them. In these days, the Eagle squad destroyed more than 10 mine carts in total. There is a mine cart. Even if you search on the map, it is difficult to find the mine cart. Since the Eagle squad has done so well, the Allies are naturally very concerned about this damn team. They have sent tanks and soldiers many times to encircle and suppress them. Occasionally, some invader fighter planes will come, and they will even send troops to garrison some mines. Prevent being attacked by surprise. However, the result is often that the meat bun beats the dog and never comes back. Wang Ling was well aware of the actions of the enemy controlled by this computer. Almost all the Allied troops who came to encircle and suppress them were destroyed by the Eagle squadron. The teams stationed in the mines were often made dumplings by the Eagle squadron. In the past few days, the activity of the Eagle squadron has overwhelmed the Allied forces, causing heavy losses. Of course, the Eagle squad doesn't come without any cost. In this battle, the infantry of the Eagle squadron lost more than 10 people, half of which were due to the snipers they encountered later. The ungraded anti-aircraft tracked vehicle was also bombed by the intruder fighter planes. However, the result in exchange is still outstanding. The Rhino tank that was taken for repairs before returned to the battlefield and was successfully promoted to the 3-star elite level. The number of infantry elites was even greater, with a total of more than 20 before and after. Got it? Under the strong Iron Horse, the Eagle Squad is also growing rapidly. Having fought so many battles in a row, the entire Eagle Squad now exudes a faint murderous intent, and everyone's eyes show resoluteness and confidence. As the captain, Wang Ling's changes were even more obvious. He had a vague aura of a superior, and his sharp eyes were becoming deeper and more mature. After several days of harassment, few minecarts from the Allies left the Allied fire range. Naturally, the target of the Eagle Squadron became increasingly difficult to find. At the beginning, the Eagle Squad often carried out night raids, but now there is no need. Early that morning, all members of the Eagle Squad woke up and were eating breakfast. Wang Ling discovered something interesting on the electronic map. 5 Rhino tanks and an anti-aircraft crawler vehicle were actually dispatched to the coalition base. Look, it looks like they are going to attack the Allied base. Good guy, when we first came here it was difficult to defend ourselves, but now we have extra strength to counterattack. Seeing this, Wang Ling smiled. However, with these troops, how can we attack and harass? Hee, it's okay. I've been bored for so long, and I finally have something to play. After laughing, Wang Ling quickly ordered, Eagle Squad, speed up and eat quickly. After eating, you will have work to do. Over the past few days, Wang Ling had led the Eagle Squad to win too many battles. Now Wang Ling naturally had a full status in their hearts. After hearing the order, he hurriedly finished his breakfast. After they were assembled, Wang Ling observed the movements of the Allied tanks on the electronic map for a while, and finally confirmed that their target was indeed the Allied base, and then selected a coordinate point not too far away from the Allied base. Issued marching orders. In the command post of the coalition base, Zhao Pingwang was a little stunned when he saw the movements of the Eagle Squad. What the hell is this Eagle Squad doing? Their mission is only to intercept and harass the Allied minecarts. How can they run towards the Allies? Have you gone to the base? Do they still want to attack the base with just these troops? After complaining, Zhao Pingwang wanted to contact Wang Ling quickly to interrupt their approach. However, Colonel Lovsky waved his hand. Don't be so hasty yet. The reason why the Eagle Squadron may have something to do with the harassing tanks we sent. Looking at Wang Ling, he is very shrewd. I think he does this egg against a stone thing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 79. But sir, look, the movement of Team Eagle is clearly heading towards the Allied forces base. This is different from the order we gave him. King Xiaoping was still a little worried. But Colonel Lovsky said with a smile, yes, I saw it. To be honest, I can't say for sure what Wang Ling wants to do now. But, again, this kid is a ghost. I think he doesn't do anything he's not sure about, and maybe Team Eagle can give us a surprise this time. Really? Let's wait and see. Naturally, Wang Ling didn't know about the conversation between Lovsky and Zhao Pluto. Now, under Wang Ling's order, the Eagle Squadron was heading towards the Allied base at full speed. This battlefield is so large that even a quick march would take several hours. It was already noon when the Eagle team arrived at the designated location. They were on their way from halfway, and even though there were infantry slowing them down, they arrived here before the base's Rhino tanks. Not far from them, there was only one base's anti-aircraft tracked vehicle parked, and they arrived here ahead of time. After checking the electronic map, it would take some time for the Rhino tanks to reach here. Wang Ling simply ordered the Eagle team to eat lunch in batches. However, this place was too close to an Allied base, and Wang Ling did not dare to be careless. The so-called lunch was just a few mouthfuls of dried meat to keep something in his stomach. Shortly after the meal, the 5 Rhino tanks finally arrived. After gathering with the anti-aircraft tracked vehicles, the 6 tanks stayed for a while, seemingly receiving the final order, and then headed towards the Allied base together. This Allied base is similar to the Coalition base. There are also walls built around the perimeter. An entrance and exit happens to be exposed outside the scope of the crack generator. 2 machine gun bunkers and 2 light prism towers are built on both sides. The machine gun bunker corresponds to the Coalition's sentry artillery. It is nothing more than that the bunker is equipped with machine guns, which is nothing strange. However, this light prism tower is a bit tricky. You can shoot light prism rays from the tower to kill ground targets. Although the power of a single shot is not as good as the magnetic storm coil, its damage to infantry and tanks is also considerable, and the firing frequency is higher. The most important thing is that as long as the 2 light prism towers are within the range of each other, the light prisms can be connected to concentrate the energy into a light prism tower for emission. The power will be doubled and the range will also increase. Wang Ling had not considered attacking the Allied base before. His main fear was the light prism tower. While Wang Ling was observing, the base's anti-aircraft tracked vehicles had already rushed to the Allied base and started fighting against the outermost machine gun bunkers. However, the damage caused by anti-aircraft crawlers to buildings is almost negligible. After several consecutive shots, the health of the machine gun bunker does not change much at all. Not only that, when such a tracked vehicle suddenly broke into, all the defensive buildings in this area opened fire after reacting. The 2 machine gun bunkers sprayed fire snakes crazily, and the 2 light prism towers also fired light prism rays one after another. This book as for the low armor anti-aircraft crawler vehicle, it didn't last long and was almost killed instantly. At this time, the 5 slower Rhino tanks finally arrived, and they also fired at the machine gun bunker, and the Allied defense buildings also counterattacked. Rhino tanks have relatively high armor, and now 5 of them have appeared in a row. The 4 defense buildings cannot kill them for a while, and the 2 sides are in a stalemate. Hey, what a good opportunity. Remember, don't take the initiative to attack those defensive buildings, focus on those that counterattack the Rhino tanks. Stay behind the tracked vehicle, other team members, all follow me. During the stalemate, Wang Ling finally found it. The opportunity to play led the Eagle team to suddenly kill. His approach can be said to be quite tricky. It is equivalent to asking the Rhino tanks at the base to help them bear the damage, while they are beating sap on the side. However, this sap was really powerful. After the Eagle squad arrived, they immediately focused their fire on the machine gun bunker that had been beaten to a pulp on the outermost edge. Under the strong firepower, it almost fell down in seconds. Afterwards, Team Eagle and Wang Ling shifted their targets and focused their fire on the light prism tower on the side. The current Eagle squad has a total of more than 23-star elite infantry and 2 3-star Rhino tanks. The firepower is not ordinary. The light prism tower that was targeted did not last long at all, and was directly killed by them. Dismantled. Then came another light prism tower and another machine gun bunker. These 2 defensive buildings were attracted by the base's Rhino tanks in advance and attacked them with all their strength. As a result, the Eagle team took advantage of a big loophole and destroyed them all with almost 0 casualties. Colonel Lovsky's original intention of these tanks was just to harass them. On the optimistic side, at the cost of total destruction, they could only demolish half of the defensive buildings at the Allied entrance. But now, the Eagle squad has stepped in, attacked them with cold guns, robbed them of all the credit, and demolished all the defensive buildings here. Only 2 of these Rhino tanks that were used as cannon fodder were destroyed, and the third one was destroyed. He has only just lost blood. To achieve this step was beyond expectations, but these Rhino tanks were not satisfied at all. They smashed the defensive buildings and rushed directly into the Allied base. They opened fire on an anti-aircraft missile while exploring the dark area created by the crack generator was opened, exposing part of the arrangement inside. To Wang Ling's expectation, the outside of this Allied base looked impregnable, but in fact it was a bit empty inside. The defensive buildings only had anti-aircraft missiles, and the defensive troops were sparse, making it look decadent. In fact, the Allies' situation was indirectly caused by the Eagle Squad. In the past few days, the Eagle Squadron has been frantically blocking the Allied mine carts, seriously interfering with the Allied forces' source of funds. The development of a military base cannot be separated from the support of funds. If there is insufficient funds, it will be difficult to do anything. However, the troops sent by the Allied forces to encircle and suppress the Eagle Squadron were almost completely surrounded and annihilated by the Eagle Squadron. Now, in addition to insufficient funds, the Allied forces' base was also a little tight on manpower and strength. In that moment, Wang Ling didn't think so much, but looking at the appearance of the base, Wang Ling smiled sinisterly. "Sister, if I kill you while you are sick, I won't cripple you. I'm sorry for those who died, brother. Guys, hit me." Now, Wang Ling had no intention of paying attention to the 3 Rhino tanks. He led his men and opened fire directly at the power plant closest to them. Speaking of games, what does Wang Ling like to play the most? In fact, it is not an enemy defense building, but a power plant. Whether it is a light prism tower, a magnetic storm coil, or an anti-aircraft missile, all such defensive buildings are driven by electricity. Even radar and satellite maps require electricity to maintain. As long as the base is cut off, then this base will be semi-paralyzed immediately. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 80. Brothers, hurry up and fight as many as you can before their defense forces come around. While attacking the power plant, Wang Ling was also shouting and urging. The Eagle Squad had long been accustomed to Wang Ling's methods, so it was no surprise that they increased their firepower output and quickly destroyed the power plant. Then, Wang Ling immediately took the lead and opened fire at another power plant. Others quickly followed his direction, and the second power plant also exploded shortly after. At this time, Wang Ling observed on the electronic map that almost all the soldiers and tanks stationed in the Allied base were in action. However, their primary target was not the Eagle Squadron, which posed the greatest threat to them, but the 3 Rhino tanks from the base. They were typical pickers of the weak. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Wang Ling quickly aimed at the 3rd power plant and quickly blew it up. Computer-controlled bases usually have a problem. They only need enough power and rarely reserve too much. As a result, after the Eagle team blew up the 3rd power plant, the Allied base was directly powered off. The light prism towers at other exits immediately stopped rotating. Even the crack generators began to work, and the dark areas in the electronic map also began to work. Be explored. At this point, the Allied base was basically semi-abandoned until power was restored. Looking at the electronic video map, we can find that there are only a small number of multifunctional infantry vehicles in this base that have air defense capabilities, while the others are all ground troops and do not have air defense capabilities. If there are some decent air attack troops at this time, Wang Ling is absolutely confident that he will destroy this Allied base directly. But here is the irony. On the current battlefield, the coalition forces do not have any air raid teams at all. We had no choice but to use ground troops to attack step by step. After the base lost power, the soldiers and tanks here seemed to be anxious, shooting at the Rhino tanks at the coalition base like crazy. When Wang Ling observed, only one was still there and struggling to hold on. "Don't be stunned, time is running out, keep fighting." After seeing it, Wang Ling gritted his teeth and then started shooting at the Allied ore refinery not far away. The other members of the Eagle Squad also quickly focused their sights. Under the powerful fire attack, the refinery was blown up before it could hold out for long, exposing the working soldiers inside, who were shot and killed. Near the refinery, there is a walled combat laboratory and a power plant. Ordinary infantry units could not attack the walls, nor could they attack buildings through the walls. Wang Ling simply ordered the Samsung Rhino tanks to attack the combat laboratory, while the infantry units focused fire with him to attack the power plant. In the end, both sides destroyed their targets almost at the same time. At this time, all the Rhino tanks used for harassing the base were finally destroyed, and all the troops in the Allied base moved closer to the Eagle Squadron. The current Eagle Squadron is strong, but it is not enough to fight against all the Allied forces. When Wang Ling saw this, he quickly shouted, "Stop fighting, retreat, quickly." Withdrawing after a fight is something that the Eagle Squad has committed frequently these days. It is very skillful to do it again. After listening to the order, all the infantry and tanks turned around and ran away, not caring about the troops trying to encircle and annihilate them. However, because the Eagle team rushed too hard, the way they came had been blocked by Allied soldiers. As a last resort, Wang Ling had to change the retreat route to another exit. This exit was also guarded by 2 light prism towers and 2 machine gun bunkers. When the base lost power, the light prism towers also lost power. But the machine gun bunker did not need electricity. When the Eagle team retreated, it suddenly opened fire. The 2 conscripts who were caught off guard were quickly shot and killed. "Damn it, if you dare to beat my men, brothers, demolish those 2 bunkers for me." Wang Ling got angry at the sight and temporarily changed the order. The entire Eagle Squadron was divided into 2 teams. With the death of 2 mobilization soldiers, the 2 machine gun bunkers were successfully demolished. At this time, the encirclement and suppression forces at the Allied base were very close to the Eagle Squad. Wang Ling did not dare to stay any longer and hurriedly urged them to leave. They came in a hurry and wreaked havoc in the Allied base, and then they patted their butts and wanted to leave. This also made the Allied base very angry. Even though they were out of the Allied base's sphere of influence, there were still more than 3 Allied soldiers, 3 grizzlies, and 2 tank killers gave chase. "Captain, there's a tail behind you." During the retreat, Sun De, who also looked back and saw the pursuers, and quickly reminded him. In fact, Wang Ling had already checked it on the electronic map without needing to remind him. However, he was afraid that reinforcements would come from another Allied base, so he did not stop to solve it. Now that he was out of the Allied forces' sphere of influence, Wang Ling had no worries. He suddenly stopped during the retreat, looked back, and issued an order: "If there is a tail, then cut it off. Listen, Team Eagle, the infantry units surround and kill the tank killers, the Rhino tanks go to deal with the Grizzly tanks, and the anti-aircraft crawlers go to kill those soldiers. Let's do it." The Eagle Squad had heard too many similar orders and acted in an orderly manner. The fastest moving among the pursuing troops were the Grizzly tanks. As they approached, the 2 3-star Rhino tanks stepped forward and started firing. The explosive shells could destroy 1 Grizzly tank in just a few rounds. 2 the 3 Grizzly tanks were all destroyed without even firing a few shots. With the firepower of these 2 Rhino tanks, it is not a problem to kill the 2 unleveled tank killers, but it will also cause considerable losses. Wang Ling does not want to see this scene. The Rhino tanks have completed their mission. Then he immediately retreated. The pursuers in the second echelon were tank killers. Wang Ling led all the infantry to cross the Rhino tanks and block them. The tank killers' damage to the soldiers was useless, and the Eagle Squad had a bunch of 3-star elites, so it was naturally a one-sided massacre. The 2 tank killers did not last long before they were directly destroyed. The Allied soldiers were the slowest, and the anti-aircraft tracked vehicles couldn't wait and intercepted them halfway. The briquette-like shells were fired indiscriminately, and all the Allied soldiers were killed without any time to fight back. At this point, the tail of the pursuing Eagle team has been completely cut off. Speaking of which, it was really bad luck for the Allied forces to catch up with the Eagle Squad and a guy like Wang Ling for 8 lifetimes. Due to the trouble caused by the Eagle Squad in advance, the Chrono minecar was blown up too many times and the funds were stretched thin. Later, the Eagle Squad took advantage of every opportunity and broke into the Allied base, retreated safely, and wiped out all the Allied troops that were chasing them. But it only killed 4 people in the battle. This result would probably make the commander of this Allied base so angry that he vomited blood. Wang Ling couldn't help but imagine that scene, and couldn't help but burst into hearty laughter. But the smile suddenly stopped, with a hint of surprise in his eyes.